1, our first set of the Phase 2 playoffs, and the Leviathans in that first pick position. Bobby, any thoughts on first or second pick? What you think is stronger in the meta right now?
I think it kind of depends on what your team is valuing. I think the Warrior jungles right now make it so I think second pick is a bit stronger. Being able to just have that counter pick in the third slot I think is the biggest thing, and then you can ban out stuff that is good against it. You see it, Variety's picking that Hell. When he was first picking it at the beginning, when he first found it out, they were kind of picking it in that third slot and then banning those power picks against it in that second ban phase.
Yep, very, very common to see that. We'll see if that comes to pass here as the Leviathans start off by focusing out Cuvo Fred. As you mentioned, Warrior jungles have been a big thing, but Serket kind of still fits that same hybrid mold that a lot of players like to go for, so expect to see that. I'd also expect an Odin ban here, Taco, because that's what Nika looked absolutely unstoppable on this phase.
Odin has certainly been a very strong contender in that solo lane. He does introduce a ton of team control as well, but something that is important to note when it comes to this Leviathans roster exclusively, and maybe Gormizer can fact check me on this later on, but I'm pretty confident in this statement. Leviathans have not lost a single game with being first pick. So with that in mind and seeing them here starting things off in that first pick position, this is, I think, a chance for them to kind of further establish themselves as, I think, one of the top tier teams as far as that first pick position is concerned.
I know Raijin is undefeated in their hands. That's why it's usually banned away, but so far not the case as the Warriors take away the Erlong Shen, and that one's a little bit surprising to me, Bobby. I mean, yeah, it's Warrior, it fits in the jungle. Panatom certainly plays it, but I don't feel like that's been a priority pick for the Leviathans recently.
I think it's mostly the throwaway ban. When it went back to the final ban for the Leviathans, there was 3 of the top picks up: Yamoja, Odin, and Tiamat. And by banning away Erlang, like a little throwaway ban, you have those 3 still up, and you rely on the Leviathans to ban one of them, and then you pass one, giving yourself a Yamoja for Tiamat trade in probably the most possible spot.
And it is Yamoja as the option for Wrong. You misspoke earlier. Of course, Raijin is banned by the Warriors. That's what they led off with. But this means that the premier mid laner, even above Raijin a lot of the time, Tiamat is open here for the Warriors. And Dardes has played it, though don't remember his success rate on it off the top of my head. But it feels like the Warriors are priced into that. But the question is, Taco, what goes with it?
The problem, I think, with the Tiamat, at least as far as the Leviathans are concerned, is that leaving the Yamoja open, we know that Neil is more than capable of taking that Yamoja for himself, and I think that this is just the Leviathans trying to introduce early separation just under the circumstance. You have to assume that Tiamat is going to get snagged up as a response pick almost right away. I mean, she's been heavily regarded as the premier mid laner here in Season 8, and for the Gilgamesh to follow through immediately after with those Cyrus having been banned away, I do like this pressure to the backline that the Oni Warriors have opted for. My concern is how frequently are they actually going to get back there with this Yamoja on the board?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Rongyu's Yamoja, one of, if not the best in the league, so giving that over to him, pretty difficult mountain to climb, but to get Tiamat Gilgamesh certainly feels good on the other end, and the Leviathans waste no time locking in yet another Guardian. Yarkor has been loving this RDO as of late, and for my money, has made it look pretty good. How do you feel about the RDO in solo, Bobby?
She just uses Vamp so strong that it never feels like you're ever poking her down. You put 2 people on her, and if neither of them have anti-heal, she can fight through it because of the cooldown reduction on her 1. She's got that 10-second heal that's healing off any god she hits with it, and it makes it very, very hard to punish her.
Yeah, she's been really good, man. I don't know. I think that she is one of the premier solo laners right now, but hell, the pickup for Shinto. Don't want to let him get double banned in the second phase. Makes sense to me. But Achilles now for the Oni Warriors. This one surprises me, Taco.
The Achilles, I would have to assume, is it's such a thin line, a thin margin even, that the Oni Warriors are working now with that Achilles, because you want to factor in the execute, but you look at the RDO, there's the cripple field to be even more restrictive alongside of that River's Rebuke, and Gilgamesh really going to have to play very heavily, I would assume, around a Blink if he wants to get that Winds of Shamash off, but the classic combo, you know, it's Blink in, Winds of Shamash, and then you leap out, but you can't really leap out if there's an RDO field underneath you. Not only that, but I think the Hell movement speed on top of the cleanse is going to be very problematic for the Oni Warriors to keep them confined to a singular space. This Achilles certainly going to have his work cut out for him. I almost feel as though this was the Oni Warriors maybe feeling a bit pressure to try and take some early game so as to combat the early game to mid-game presence from the Leviathans.
Bobby, your thoughts on this Achilles?
It's always weird picking an Execute God into a triple healing comp.
Right.
Because it is so 50-50. You start that Execute up, they're under that threshold, 2 hell heals come through, RDO heal comes through, Yemoja heal comes through. She's back to almost full health, who's ever you're trying to execute. So, I mean, it's a decent pick. It gives you some CC, but I don't know. I'm not loving the Achilles pick too much.
I think I'm with you there. Not usually what we see in this spot anyways, and then against the triple healer, as you mentioned. Just had a look at Gormizer's stat sheet, and Yemoja is the most banned god versus the Leviathans this year, even above Raijin. So pretty impressive that Rongyu's able to get his hands on it in this matchup, as it's Danzaburo the pickup this time around for Vote, a god that Pan the Cat popularized a little bit during Phase 1 playoffs and made look very good there, but we haven't seen very much Danza so far this year, Bobby.
Yeah, not much Danzaburo. I think it's just a little bit of dive extra. T-Mat's going in. Dance can maybe get on the rocket and try to dive also, but Leviathans kind of have a super strong anti-dive comp with the Hell, RDO, Yemoja, and now Dodgy to just waste a bunch of time in the backline. This Leviathans draft is shaping up really well.
A couple of picks coming out, Taco, that we don't see very often. Dodgy now and Ho Yi, those are not your premier pick to the bottom end. At least they haven't been up until this point. Why do you think we see those two for the Leviathans?
Total space control right here. That's all I'm reading from this Leviathans roster. The Powwow plus that slow out of Zapman's ultimate. It's just incredibly difficult to try and even navigate through these spaces with an Achilles execute like Bobby was talking about.
It is just a super unique composition from both of these squads so far. The Leviathans, as the desk highlighted, have an incredibly strong anti-dive, man. I mean, how are you going to work through the entirety of RDO's CC kit, the CC immunity that Shinto affords your team, Rongyu operating as a just kind of pillar of mobility for his entire squad with those Riptides? I think that the Oni Warriors strategy is very clear with this composition, and the desk nailed that as well, thanks to guest analyst Bobby. This is a ton of dive, and he brought up an interesting point in that Tiamat has poke to preface that dive. I think it's going to have to really come down to Darda's play, and I don't know, man. Darda's been struggling so far this year.
How's that man and Rongyu trying to make waves early here in the duo lane, getting aggressive against Neil and Vote, pushing both of them back just a little bit, and they've both got a couple of potions left to try and sustain themselves back up, while Zapman's only got that single multi-potion.
Rongyu and Zapman, but poke wars, these battles of attrition, always going to favor the team with Yemoja, so as long as it's a 2v2, I like the Leviathan's odds.
Panatom taking a bit of damage on this Dodgy, which is also a god that we haven't seen in quite some time. But we'll have to hold that as Vote and Zapman both getting low. Zapman has to leap away as Vote sits inside the bamboo field just to make sure he gets a little bit of extra benefit for him. You actually touched up with the hunters about this Danzaburo god. That little field actually does a lot more than people really take account for.
Healed up with that a little bit of additional lifesteal. Outside of that, I mean, my man's working with fumes right now.
Neilmaw trying to push forward towards Zap, trying to push him out. The Harpy won't be stolen away, but now it might be Neil in danger as Panatom is rotated in. Blink in with the Dodgy. Goes for the 1,000 cuts. The stun from Rongyu is good. Neil is getting low. Use the sprint. Zapman needs one more base or maybe an ult from Panatom to bring it back in. Powwow grabs one, grabs two, and the third does the damage. First blood goes to the Leviathans.
Panatom works his way forward, and now Vote finds himself isolated.
Vote stuck in the midst of it all, and he will fall down. Rongyu getting credit for a kill, and that's a quick 2 on the board for the Leviathans.
That's not what you want to see if you're an Oni Warriors fan. Leviathans off to a quick start here. Cubo Fred trying to make up for it on the opposite side of the map. Blue buff invade.
Hardcore going to try and secure that one for himself, but will be unsuccessful in doing so.
If they want to work their way into the back line. Cubo Fred, Nika, Neilma, even Dardes, all going to have to play very close range. With the suns raining down on them, won't be easy.
Blue buff, the target of aggression for the Warriors as they'll be spotted out. Hardcore gets some backup from Rongyu and Panatom, and while Panatom brings the pain towards Nika, takes him down to about half health, goes in with the Trickster Spirit, Riptide misses, and Nika runs the wrong way, and Ultimate will not save his life. Hardcore gets credit for the kill. Now Cubo Fred caught out in the midst. He has to leap his way as well, going back towards that tier 1, and Neil almost gets soloed by Shinto in the mid lane.
Shinto putting out so much damage already, sees Neilma trying to rotate his way towards that right side fight, and Shinto will not allow it. 1 level lead for the Hell in mid, and look at that. Yeah, Dardash, you're not allowed to stand there, bud. The damage is already ringing true.
Oh, man. One more basic is all he would have needed for it. Dardash
18.
living on slivers of health there, barely able to make it out. One basic would have 100% secured it for, but look at Shinto's level right now. He's sitting at level 10 just 7 minutes in.
Neil is going to lose out on a lot of his damage inside of his ability rotation as well, so any Ankh that I see from the Warriors is good.
Waves come out looking for anybody. Neil is the only one who's in the midst of it. Vote's falling low, and Zap finds him with the damage from the Ricochet. Neil, with the transformation, saves his life, but losing out on Vote's going to be a big detriment for them.
The Leviathans haven't been checked on the map. Not a single time has Cuvo Fred been there to help out with his aggression in mid. It's Shinto sitting on the tower line. It's Duo, it's Leviathan, Zapman, and Rongyu sitting on tower line. Now Cuvo has to show up.
He's finally going to go for it, but he misses Zapman, hits Rongyu with the drop kick. Now he's trying to go for the boxing match, but Zapman is low, has the leap to get away with the dive bomb. And the win's no good from Cuvo Fred. They do manage to strip away Zapman's beads, but they lose out so much in return.
Grouping near the Pyromancer, that's got to be the target.
When you have a level 13 Hell, it's no surprise you want to try and take some of these early objectives. Pyromancer being the first one on the docket for the Leviathans. Riptide will catch Cuvo and force the leap away from him. He'll be able to manage to get out for now, and with Hardcore's rotation over, they can easily start looking towards this Pyromancer yet again, stripping the ward away and turning their sights back to the objective.
The Oni Warriors absolutely know that this Pyromancer is going down right now, and there's not much of a response they can make on the Pyromancer itself. So where did they go on the map? It's a 3-man grouping on the left-hand side, spotted out by the Oracle Vision. So Zapman is going to start to work his way out. Oni Warriors routed in this situation. No response on the map. Clean objective for the Leviathans puts them even further in the lead.
Zapman, not sure if he knows that Neil is still sitting around in the jungle waiting for an opportunity to gank. He'll going to take a long leap around, and Boat going with the rocket may have just given it away. Zapman drops the Suns, but he's in the midst of 3, and that will be the first response from the Warriors finally getting themselves on the board.
Zapman just doesn't think that Neilma is going to sit there for actually 20 seconds, and Zapman is wrong.
Shinto, get this free farm. It's so rare that we see Panatom or even Rongyu sitting in lane with them. Rongyu will occasionally hover over just because, well, your support, you're going to need a little bit of additional help to get that farm. But Shinto, he's feeling comfortable. He has that Doom Orb, now a Mantle of Discord as a second item. Not often you see a second item defense even coming out of Hell. Vote and Neil are in a little bit of danger. Neil goes into the Dragon form. Vote doesn't have that same luxury as Rongyu. Hits him with the bubble to take him down.
Neilma now going to take a little bit more damage inside of his tower, and the rotation was on the way from the Oni Warriors, who had made a pit stop at the red buff, but was not fast enough. Zapman and Rongyu very healthy at this point. Maybe could keep this pressure up, especially if Neil just walks in.
Neil de-transformed, uses the leap to go back under tower, but Rongyu will hold this one for him. Gets a Riptide, but Zapman a little too far to capitalize on the Riptide forward. Instead, they'll just go ahead and take a tier 1 tower along with Vote's life from earlier on.
Panatom sees if maybe he could get the teleport in, but instead just spots 2 backs from the Oni Warriors, and if 2 people leave and one's dead, what better to do than the Gold Fury itself? This is going to burn down very quickly, and where are the Warriors? Donde esta? They're not here.
Look at the pacing that the Leviathans have set in just the gold alone. After taking the Gold Fury, they're now up over 5,000 gold.
So far, 15 minutes in the game. Maybe not a ton of kills, but map control certainly been completely on the Order side. This gold lead is really starting to reach that point where the Oni Warriors are going to be forced to dig in their heels and take a fight that they would have preferred to have taken 5 minutes ago. The Leviathans have taken the path of least resistance to a massive lead.
Hardcore will get the root against Nika. Panatom blinks in, goes for the 1,000 cuts, but is knockup immune during it. Nika's not going to get anybody with the pull, and instead he'll lose out on his life as 3 dives the tower to take out the solo laner.
When you've got an Ardio, yeah, that is the most fun lane to gank as a jungler, because Ardio is going to make sure that whoever's there stays there. Stuns, roots, cripples, she's got every form of CC you need to set up for these kills, and she's also got the ability to sustain you inside of these fights. Panatom still going in.
Looking for Neil, now turning their sights towards Cuvo. He has to leap away. Panatom still going in, has the Pow Loud still available, and with the River's Rebuke, that's going to zone everybody in the mid, so will only pull Cuvo Fred in. The stun is good. Hardcore gets him with the Bear Claw, and Neil just now getting his transformation, going to try and fight back.
Void has used his ultimate to close the gap, and Yarkor is caught in no man's land.
Rongyu also on the run, but Hardcore not going to manage to get out just yet. Cancels his dash just a little too early. Vote able to pick him up and turn it around, and maybe even Panatom falls as Dardes is trying to chase him out.
Maybe a little bit too much confidence from the Leviathans here, stepping into the tier 2 tower of the Oni Warriors so early on, but no, Panatom is going to be able to walk away this time around. Yarkor, the only one who's going to pay for the sins of his team.
Meanwhile,
Cuvo Fred still dead for 5 seconds. Zapman strips away the red buff and works his way over the wall. Nika, nice rotation, bud, but maybe not enough.
Pyromancer started. Neil is low. Shinto may just be able to go for a kill here. If he can get past the stun in time. Oni Warriors do secure the Pyromancer. They get something for their troubles, but that's only to stem the bleeding that the Leviathans have started.
We've reached that point. We're at critical mass. We can do just about no wrong in the map. Groups up and starts to put some pressure onto this mid tower. The Oni Warriors are forced to respond in numbers. 5 members hovering around this tower with only 3 from the Leviathans generating threat.
Soul Reaver picked up by Shinto, and they're looking for a potential dive under the tower. Neil takes a huge chunk of damage, stunned from Dardes off the mark. And instead, the remaining Leviathans members will turn their sights at that Tier 1 tower, and they'll strip that one away. Another 500 gold and even more map pressure available for the Leviathans, because now there's no Tier 1 towers left standing.
Great strategic play from the Leviathans to keep that fight going as Yarkor tries to keep it going now instead for a red buff. Oni Warriors, what's the defense look like so far? Scattered.
Successful in stealing it away and maybe looking towards Neil Ma. Teleport in from Panatom, looking for the support. The stun will be good enough to get the dragon form out, but as soon as he lands down, it's nothing but doom for him. Panatom picks him up. Nika forced to run away as Zatman and Hardcore catch him inside the sun.
That's an easy kill for Zatman, but it's not the end of the fight. Panatom up in the air.
Howlow gets the beats from one, but Dardes didn't have his available. It's a double kill for Zatman off a fantastic ultimate from Panatom under that Tier 2.
The Leviathans are starting to run away with it now, J-Mac. This gold lead is compounding moment on moment. It only gets further out of control. The Oni Warriors there initially had grouping to defend that Tier 1 tower, and the Leviathans waited patiently for their opportunity. The second that the Oni Warriors showed weakness, they went into the tower, they took the fight, they invaded the red buff, and they took another fight, won that one as well. And what's the spoil of war? Fire Giant.
Big objective for them, just shy of the 20-minute mark, already grabbing Fire Giant, nearly closing up that 10,000 potential gold lead. Look at the purchases they went back for. Dominance out of Zatman, a full Obsidian Shard for Shinto, Heartseeker out of Panatom. Oh, and Hardcore, it's sitting over that 3,000 gold. Well, let's get a Mantle of Discord and a Tier 2 Silver Breastplate to back for it. Massive power spikes, some big defenses coming out of the solo laner as well. Leviathans now looking to siege up this left and mid Phoenix.
They are, so what's the approach going to be? Oni Warriors look like they want to all-in engage. Nice stun on the Dardes, stops it.
That man takes a lot of damage, gets stuck by the Ruination. He'll have to leap away. The Cyclone comes out from Dardes, looking for a little bit of damage back, but it's only going to be Panatom and Zatman falling a bit low. They've got Shinto and Rongyu to heal them back up, and look how quickly they're able to get those health pools back up.
Yeah, that's it. Then the Oni Warriors have to all-in engage if they want to stop this push. Otherwise, this Phoenix is going to keep getting peppered with damage. Luckily, the Draugr should help out slightly.
Nika, the front line here with Neil, but Neil's only level 13 compared to the rest of them. Nika loses over half his health in an instant. Neil jumps in, and Neil's going to have to walk away. Phoenix is still under siege. Zatman peppering autos into it, already drafted under half. Panatom has to use the Trickster Spirit just to get away.
Ankh is used, and nobody's dead yet from the Leviathans. Neomon, the Dragon Stance, removed from the map.
As soon as he falls down from that transformation, he is gone. Zatman, however, is in danger. Kubo chasing him down. The Aegis buys him a little bit of time and enough healing coming from his team. Panatom picks up the second kill of the fight, and a double stun out of Hardcore finds Dardes and Vote. Vote able to get away for only a short while for Dardes. He falls down. Double for Panatom and the left side Phoenix.
Nika and Vote, the only members still standing, and maybe not long enough for me to finish the sentence. It's all up to Vote now, 1 versus 5 to defend the Titan.
He's got no ultimate. It looks like it may just be game number 1 going the way of the Leviathans. They may go for one last little cheeky kill if they can to get the unofficial deicide with it, and they will do so. Game 1 going to be going to the Leviathans.
Wouldn't be a Leviathans game if they ended it without at least finding one BM kill inside of the enemy base, but this guy's a little bit too tanky. Neomon should be able to survive, but the Titan, that can't be said of it.
No, Titan's not going to get any kind of healing benefits that you may have from any other god. The triple heal comp just proved too much. You saw in that last...
Right now, Bobby, like we said,
Only
that's playing here today.
Right.
It's playing here today, at least. And it's just... I mean, I don't know where you really go as Danza in that situation. It's a River's Rebuke, it's a Holy Sunbreaker, and you just kind of die for free.
It's like the old Odin Zeus combo, and he picked a guy who couldn't get out of the cage, and then he would just die every time their ults were back
It's
up.
like, what? I can't believe I'm being punished for this. Like, I just can't believe it.
And there's really nothing he could do. It's just the pick. I think you just have to go with something different than the Dans against the Emoja.
Yeah, I agree. And it wasn't just the Emoja. It was Panatom as well on this Dodgy, a pick that we don't see very often, but put out an incredible scoreline, 11,000 player damage. The Dodgy was looking fresh to kick it off. And whenever you load into a tournament like this, a best of 5, and you start with a god that you haven't played a whole lot this year, and that no one's playing a whole lot this year, that's got to feel pretty good as a player to know that now that's another god that you're putting in other people's heads.
Exactly. Now you're going to have people thinking, yo, if we pick this god that doesn't have CC immunity early in the draft, we might have to ban that Dodgy in the second phase. Stuff like that is just going to be in the back of some people's minds now, because he put on a performance with that Dodgy.
Yeah, really, really solid. 4-0 and 8 for him. Vote, the only member who got some kills, there for the Warriors, but of course still not enough. 16,000 player damage for young Steven Zappas, so top of the player damage charts for him, and that enabled that first pick Yemoja. This time, taking first pick for themselves, which makes some sense to me, Taco.
And the other thing to note of that game 1 picks and bans as well, they left the emoji open, which, you know, we can talk all day long on with how do you challenge Rongyu like that, but because the Tiamat was open as well, I think that might have also been the Oni Warriors kind of testing the waters, gauging whether or not the Leviathans would look to prioritize that Yem over anything else. And now the Leviathans have clearly established the fact that, hey, if it's up for grabs, we're going to take it. The Oni Warriors don't necessarily have to ban Yemoja since their first pick. They could still leave that god open and just look to steal it away for Neilmaw this time.
I mean, you have to at this point, right? You cannot afford to let Rongyu take it again, as far as I'm concerned. So maybe you go with leaving it open, but then you're priced into first picking that, and the Leviathans could play around that pretty well.
I think the biggest thing is Shinto has shown that he doesn't need the Tiamat to play a god that's almost as effective as the Tiamat, if that makes sense.
Right.
So first picking that Yemoja, Tiamat was counterpicked. He played just as good on the Hell as Dardes did on the Tiamat. And I think it just shows that Shinto wants his god top 3. He wants one of those top pick gods, but he'll play them all at about the same pacing.
Yeah, he really has looked very good, and immediately the Warriors decide they don't want to look at the Hell or the Raijin, so 2 bans already tossed Shinto's way. And now Tiamat, are you priced into banning it as the Warriors, or are you have to first pick it? You can't let Shinto have Tiamat, right? We all agree on that, yeah?
Yeah, for the most part. You just can't. That god just does so much that him on that Hell looked that good. I cannot imagine how he's going to look on that Tiamat again.
My worry is that the Oni Warriors are going to try to prioritize an Osiris or a Gilgamesh, possibly even the Serket, because Cuvo has looked, I think, best whenever he's been able to get Serket underneath him. So with the Oni Warriors, though, they're not going to take any chances, but it is leading me to further believe that it's going to be an Osiris, Gilgamesh, some sort of frontline establishment for their first priority.
I mean, you have to at this point, but now 3 mage bans thrown Shinto's way. Is it? Sometimes we see, like, players triple banned, and it's like, oh, they've only shown that they can do it on these 3 gods, and so that's why we're triple banning them. And when you're in, like, Shinto's position, Genetics did it a couple times this year, where he gets triple banned and then still pops off on the next pick. Like, that is devastating, I think, to a team's mental, because it feels like you're left with no options at that point.
It's just one of those things you can't do. Shinto's god pool goes about 7 gods deep, realistically, where all those gods are about the same value for him, and they banned out 3 mages, leaving open Osiris, Odin, Serket. You could see the Leviathans just pick like a Serket Odin here, and that is a super, super strong dive.
And Rongyu's been playing the Serket more recently, so you know that he has that in the support god pool. Doesn't necessarily have to go towards Panatom. With Odin open, the Oni Warriors don't go that direction. They prioritize that Osiris, something that can get involved a little bit early, just like the Gilgamesh in theory, though we didn't see that in Game 1, Taco.
And the Leviathans, they also secondary picked the RDO, so the Odin comes as no real surprise, but it's not a necessity, I would say, for it to wind up in that solo lane. There is a chance, I think, that they could look to flex into an RDO or a Fafnir here for that frontline establishment, but Morgan Le Fay is going to make her debut. You guys have been talking about how Shinto has been wanting to snag his option in that top 3, and I think that that's going to be a recurring theme here throughout this set.
So it's top 2, Morgan Le Fay, making sure that Dardes doesn't grab that away. I'm a bit surprised here, though, Bobby. I mean, Morgan, not a great matchup into Odin. If they take it, sure, I just take Merlin. Like, that's Shinto's bread and butter. I'm a little surprised they prioritize it this heavily.
No, I was thinking the same thing. I think if you just pick the... I mean, maybe it's just they don't have the prio on the Serket, which is fair. But RDO looked phenomenal last game, and Odin still has flex potential. RDO has flex potential. Instead, you pick this Morgan. It's just probably going to be a Dardes Merlin at this point, and he can just flicker out of the cage, and he plays pretty safe. I think the Morgan pick was just a little jump of the gun, and it's just something probably Shinto wants to get right now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, when you get triple banned and your boy goes, yo, give me this, I think you kind of have to do it, so that makes some sense. As RDO is locked in, but on the side of the Warriors, this is a volatile matchup over there if it is solo lane versus solo lane, because Odin, of course, so much of his damage comes from Bird Bomb, and RDO cripple stops that, but she also gets shut down pretty hard by that Odin cage. Is there a side that you favor there, Taco?
Definitely favoring the Oni Warriors top 3 currently. I think that there is a lot of the early game aggression, particularly factoring into those side lanes. That was something that the Oni Warriors were heavily missing in game 1, but Izanami should definitely be a solution to some of that dual lane pressure. It's interesting to see the Gilgamesh as that third pick response here for the Leviathans. I do think that this RDO kind of stems into impacting both the Gilga and the Odin here, so a lot of restrictive factors already being introduced for the Oni Warriors. And seeing the Gilgamesh now, I have to assume that that is truly just the Leviathans trying to really hammer down and burst damage.
I mean, now you've got a lot of area control at the same time, not just that burst damage. You've got one cage that Izanami can dash out of, and then another cage waiting for Sudoshi lands. So a pretty area control-y composition, and that worked out pretty well for the Leviathans in game 1.
I do want to say about the Oni's top 3 is they have flex potential this game. Unlike last game where they didn't have really much flex potential, everything they picked was kind of guaranteed where it's going. They have that Osiris guy can play jungle solo, RDO can play solo or support, and it just allows them to just kind of pick the matchup that they kind of favor while seeing the Leviathan's top 4. And I think that'll just favor them a little bit more.
Yeah, certainly the case. As Cirquet is banned, I think the Leviathan's thinking about that same flex potential that you were just talking about there, Bobby. As it's Cupid, more area control for the Leviathans. They're Xboxing us here, Bobby. They're going circles on circles in this draft.
Yeah, it's also, that is not going to be, like, compare what the RDO had to dive last game, just a Tia and a Danzaburo. Pretty easy to avoid most of that stuff. Not a ton of lockdown if you can just avoid the little bit of CC they have. Now you're going to have to dive a Morgan and a Cupid with RDO just having one form of CC immunity in those beads that she's probably going to end up buying. I think it's just, Leviathans kind of just know what to counter gods with, and I think the Oni Warriors just haven't thought that far ahead.
I love seeing this Kuzenbo pick come out here, though. I have to assume that that is going to be for Neil Ma, and now that Discordia as well. So a couple of different cripple factors between the Golden Apple and that RDO field, as well as the fact that Kuzenbo, Watery Grave, I think, could be the make or break impact here for the backline of the Leviathans.
Pretty early on. I kind of want to make fun of Bobby a little bit just because Neilma is the Kuzenbo guy. Like, that's kind of his thing. Anytime I see the Oni Warriors pick that god, I'm not even considering it a flex just because Neilma likes it so much. But we've seen the adaptation now in the P's and B's for both of these squads. I need to see the adaptations on play on field, and in one player in particular. Cubo Fred was absent from the early game in game 1. We saw maybe his first real gank attempt around level 10. You got to do it a little bit faster than that. And on Osiris, a god that really can control, likely the strongest god for the first 6 levels of this game, he's got to do something.
And right there we saw a little bit of the weakness of this Ares versus Kuzenbo matchup is typically Ares is knock-up immune, knock-back immune during those flames, but the Kuzenbo is able to push him right out of there, and that pretty much negates all of the clear that Rongyu had. Now once it's level 2, it won't be too bad, but Hardcore may not be as beneficial for it. He doesn't have the same luxury of being knockback immune or even really CC immune in any sort of fashion. They're going to turn their sights back towards Vote and get his beads early on.
That is a huge loss of survivability, and we see now what the kill pressure is like for the Leviathans. If Rongyu lands chains and Heartbum follows it up, you're probably just dead now if you're Vote. I don't care if you're at 100% HP or 80%. It does not matter.
Blink from Neil, pushing Rongyu into the wave. Half of health on the Ares and no way to walk away. It's just going to be too many basics peppering into him, and Vote will take first blood.
Zatman on the retreat just has to watch his support fall down here, and Cubo Fred on the rotation. Maybe not required for the kill, but certainly a good look. Get a good deal of burst potential, or rather just consistent damage from chains and flames going forward. Rongyu, though, with a much slower build and a level behind, is going to have a harder time getting involved. And look at the other side. Oni Warriors keeping the invades up.
Cubo caught out. 3 were waiting for him at that blue buff. He's got enough movement speed to get away. Winja Shamash gets the beads from Cubo. Rongyu goes in with the ultimate. No CC immunity left. He gets yanked right back in and punched against the wall. Panatom picks him up.
That's a great ultimate from Rongyu. That's the only thing that gets them the kill there. I mean, if anyone else, if it were any other support, rather, I don't think that happens.
Tune than we saw in game number 1, where instead of the Oni Warriors being down a few thousand gold, now they're up about 1,200 gold over the Leviathans this time around. And it's only 1-1 on the kill board. The Oni Warriors are going to try for an early Gold Fury. The Oracle Harpies have been acquired for the Leviathans, so Zatman knows this is going on. They'll drop the Fields of Love. Neil has to use the Watery Grave. The Oni Warriors get the Gold Fury, but are they going to lose Neil in the process? It looks like so.
Vote jumping in. Actually wants to keep chasing that kill. Shinto with a Dragonflight knocks him away, but only for a second.
Double for him. Panatom will at least return fire and make it a 2 for 2, but Vote just decides to dive right in and pick up 3 kills for himself so far there this early game. Double kill they were able to get going. Zapman, nice ultimate. We still got gold. Oh, and we took you in the process, getting Vote his 3rd kill of the game. Now he's a tier 1 item up over Zapman, starting for his crit early on.
Crit is finished from Vote. I don't think Zap has any opportunity to take a fight.
Last game, Shinto had such a monumental lead in that mid lane, but we'll hold that thought as Neil gets caught in the middle of everybody. Chains come out from Rongyu, but Neil is able to get away just far enough so the chains don't deal too much damage. Cuvo Fred jumps in with the ultimate, only finds Panatom with it. Rongyu with the flames will make sure to push Cuvo Fred away, but Shinto goes in the ultimate looking for some damage, but he finds Vote around the corner.
And you don't want to lock eyes with Vote because he does damage, puts Shinto down very quickly, and where's Zapman? He's letting his team know, hey, Vote's not here, but I'm not there either. A lot of sense up against some of the sustain that Shinto is going to have. Zapman has healing as well. Good itemization here from Cuvo Fred, and good opportunity for the Oni Warriors to go for the Oni Fury.
Vision control for it. Zapman is here because they saw him walk over a few wards, but Zapman's being zoned away by Nika, going in with the ultimate is Rongyu, looking to pull in. It's only going to grab Vote. Zapman low in the back, trying to run away from Nika, but our core finds Neil in the back.
Nika now chasing out Rongyu all on his own as Cuvo Fred isolates your core.
Cuvo gets feared by the Sigil, and Shinto puts him down with the ultimate. Panatom leaping in will find Vote in the midst of the Winds of Shamash. Drop kicked him against the wall and will take him down thanks to the help of Shinto. Now Nika stuck in the middle of 3 looking for a kill of his own for Zapman, and hardcore finds Dardes all by himself.
This was the most expensive Gold Fury, but Nika makes it a little bit better. Finds himself another kill at the tail end, but Shinto, credit for the triple 3-piece for the mid laner on the Leviathans. And how does that remark on the charts? It's about dead even. I mean, we're coming out in the same spot we went into it with. Oni Warriors still looking about a just under 2,000 gold lead. Nice little recap.
Built from that triple kill that he got the shutdown bonus against Vote, plus 2 more kills on top of it, put him from even with Dardes, now 2 levels up over him. Rongyu goes in for the Blink Ultimate's got to pull Vote inside the cripple field as well, and Vote has nowhere to go. The chains hold him in place. Rongyu takes him down. Nika rotates over, gets away from the dropkick from Panatom with the dash and able to take him down.
Keep your eyes on Shinto. He's on the rotation in. As is Dardes and Cuvo Fred. Neil Ma drop low.
Zapman falling low as well, and with the ultimate in from Cuvo, Fred will cut off the gap. Nika picks up a double kill and maybe looking for more as Rongyu is low, stunned out by the tether, and Dardes grabs him with the unruly magic.
The Leviathans had a clear plan there. All right, look, there's no way that Vote survives the ultimate from Ares. His beads are down. It's an easy pick. We disengage after that. But the Oni Warriors were ready on the rotation and immediately punish out the Leviathans for it, getting back a good deal of that XP lead for themselves. And 3 members of the Leviathans still on the grayscale screen. We'll see where the Oni Warriors go to push that lead. Maybe this tier 1 tower in mid's going to fall, and it will very easily. Dardes, though, still sitting at a 2-level deficit up against Shinto. The Leviathans have the ability to continue fighting in, but the Oni Warriors have a nice little lead.
Look at the answer back to the crit that's been built by both of these hunters. Double spectral armor coming from Hardcore and Rongyu, and a spectral armor coming from Nika as well to try and deal with it. Starting up the Fire Giant is the Oni Warriors. The Leviathans are in pursuit to make their way towards the objective. It's already down to half health. Hardcore will blink in, and immediately Neil will push him back towards the edge of the Fire Giant pit, and finally will be a disengage, but Cuvo is one caught in the midst of it. The Dragonflight comes through for some damage. Cuvo can't find his way out of the cage, and Rongyu picks him up.
Cuvo Fred just way too far forward inside of that engagement. The Leviathans may not be getting the better end of all these team fights right now. I don't care where the engagement starts. On both of these teams' minds is the Fire Giant itself. Gold Fury is just an easy objective to force an engagement on.
They're trying for it. Down to half health already is the Fury. Oni Warriors trying to make a response. Neil will go into the back line and blink with the Watery Grave, looking for Zapman. Rongyu misses the chain, and the cage drops down from Hardcore. Neil Ma's the one caught, not even inside the cage, it's on the outside of the cage, but so much damage coming back from Dardes. One already down. Rongyu looking to pull people in, but the beads are going to be good enough, and Rongyu falling low. Zapman finds Cuvo Fred all by himself, and Vote is trying to box out against Hardcore.
Nika chasing out Rongyu, switches targets in the last second to Zapman and gets neither. Shinto in the back takes out Dardes, and it's Vote trying to return the favor.
Has to use the beats to get away from the fear. Vote not going to get the damage. The Aegis is good, but Nika all the while is still in this 3v1 match. Finally, somebody's going to take him down. Hardcore gets the credit for the damage, and that's a 4-for-1 trade at the Leviathan's hand.
And what did I say? We are not fighting over the Gold Fury. The Leviathans reset. There's a duo lane still alive, and they could try and put up a defense here.
Ultimate is available for Neil, and he's going to have to get past the cage that Hardcore has if he decides to drop it down. Rong Yu is at the front line for, and Neil trying to find a way in. Cage misses. The seal comes out to do some damage and try and zone them away. Cage is good for the moment to zone them away, but Fire Giant is still being burned down by Zapman alone. They will take the fire and maybe be able to pick up Neil in the process. The sigil just off the mark from Shinto.
Cubo Fred turns the corner just to peel out for his home, and he does so beautifully, but the tier 2 tower not nearly as lucky. That's going to fall down. 5 members of the Leviathans with Fire Giant on their belts. Keep your eyes on Panatom. Looks like he might be able to split push all on his own. This should be a slow engagement from the Leviathans. Strip away some of these tools from the Oni Warriors. Keep your eyes on the Golden Apple from Dardes and the Watery Grave. Those are the 2 most important team fight ultimates that the Oni Warriors have.
Neil trying to zone away Hardcore, but Hardcore's just walking at them under the Phoenix. All 5 members of the Leviathans here to try and push these Oni Warriors away from the Phoenix that's already down to half health. Neil has to use the Water Grave defensively, and he gets caught in the middle of 5. He gets pushed away, and Rong Yu able to live nice and healthily.
Here's the disengage now. Utilize those hearts from Zapman to heal yourselves all the way back up, because Golden Apple, Watery Grave, both down. It's all up to Lord of the Afterlife and Dark Portal, and that's not enough AoE.
And Tom with the blink drop kick against Dardes, who's able to get out thanks to his own leap. The Phoenix doesn't have that same benefit. It does go down. Dardes not looking too hot here as he falls down. Zapman and Shinto picking up the 3rd kills through the match, making a double kill for Zapman as Cuvo falls, and it's just one lone vote to defend against the Leviathans. Game number 2 looks like it's going the way of the Leviathans.
Vote does fall. Credit of the kill goes to Yarkor, and the Titan will be joining him on the journey to the Shadow Realm very shortly. This was a game that started off a little bit rough.
It's just, you got to be able to push your lead somewhere. They got that lead, and it's not like they didn't try to make plays, but the plays were just not big enough plays to continue pushing that lead around. You saw when the Leviathans tried to come back into the game, they got the pick on, I think it was Nika to just start it off, give them somewhere that they can play around, somewhere that's not terrible. Or it was on Cuvo that they got it on. It just gives them somewhere that they can actually be back in the game. You saw Panatom was level 3 at like 4 or 5 minutes, and then he hit level 7 at the same time as the Osiris because they got that kill onto him, and he was the one that got the kill. I think you just need some higher value plays. If they know you're going to be at that blue buff, they're probably going to send a lot of people to match you at that blue buff, and you got to be ready for it.
It certainly wasn't the case there for the Warriors. They were ready. I mean, the area control for the Leviathans, what we talked about in their draft, I mean, clearly ended up paying off. A 3-man pull there from Rongu at the very end, who looked very solid on this Ares, a pick that seems a little bit out of sorts for him, but certainly ended up working out. 2-2-13, 4-0-11 for Yarkor on that Odin. Odin continues to be one of those priority picks. And wouldn't you know it, Shinto gets triple banned at the front, picks Morgan Le Fay, and does the most player damage in the game, while on the other end, Cuvo Fred, they first pick this Osiris, gets no kills, doesn't find the kill column, and lowest overall player damage.
Then I definitely would like to see Cuvo. I understand where there might be a slight lack of confidence due to some ping disparities. That makes total sense. But again, if you have such an aggressive god like the Osiris or really any jungler, just run it down in the duo lane. That's where the kills are taking place. That's where your best bet is going to be as well, because Vote for a short time period, I think for the first 15 minutes, he was making numerous double kill performances there for the Oni Warriors. It's just unfortunate that it was never really able to stem into something bigger.
Well, the Oni Warriors in first pick again. We'll see if they want to triple ban Raijin, or triple ban Shinto, starting off with Raijin again, because that's what they did in game number 2. Have to imagine that something is going to change there. But you look at the draft for the Leviathans in that game, it's maybe Odin that you would switch to a ban, but Gilgamesh maybe. I mean, these other gods that they picked, Morgan Le Fay, not considered the top tier mage right now, but you could go for her. Cupid, Ares, like, those aren't gods you're normally banning, right, Bobby?
Yeah, now you're kind of stuck at this point where there's not like top picks that the Leviathans are picking and just winning with. You're actually kind of getting some of those top picks and you're just not having the value on them.
Right.
At this point, I think you might just have to throw the meta out the window and just try to pick something that you can work with. Maybe pick something that just has this big circular damage like the Gilg and just play a little bit more aggressive on it with Cuvo. Because like Osiris doesn't scale to the late game like most junglers do have some sort of semblance late game. Gilg has that giant ult that just puts a bunch of damage out. It slows, it roots if you stay into it, and he just gets a bunch of damage off. So maybe you go with that Gilg again and just try to have him play a little bit more aggressive. Like Taco said, that they played through that dual lane game 2. They got massive. Maybe just have Kivo play a little more around there.
The problem that I'm seeing here, though, is that Yamoja, she's up for grabs, and it's going to be the Osiris snap block here for the Oni Warriors, despite what happened in Game 2 there for Cuvo. He continues to be the priority pick option here, and I just can't help but feel like this is the Oni Warriors. It's Yamoja Gilgamesh all day long if the Leviathans want to.
That is crazy that they go back to that Osiris with Yamoja open, and that is the case. I mean, Odin banned this time by the Leviathans. Maybe the Warriors feel like they can get that Khepri. That's been banned away from Neil in both games so far. Top 3 in Game 2. Maybe they feel like, okay, that's clearly a pick they don't want to play against, and we can take that. But can't imagine I really love playing Khepri that much into Yamoja because you just get walled in.
Yeah, and in the RDO now, too, you're literally just going to be getting rooted, stunned, locked down, unable to dash. I think maybe they still want a little bit of flex potential from the Osiris. Maybe Nika is going to be taking it, so maybe it has some flex potential there. But that Osiris pick last game had no first pick value.
Yep.
And it's insane to see him go back to it.
And it is Khepri this time for Neil. Almost expecting an Izanami pick here, right, with how well they played that duo lane and how well Vote played. I think you have to feed the hot hand. Just give yourselves a win condition because getting an ADC that can get out of the Emoji wall first and foremost would be on the first thing on my mind if I'm Vote.
It could definitely benefit Vo. I also don't think that Hou Yi is all that far removed from the discussion either, just in case, but it is just going to be the Izanami, and I understand this. I think that Khepri and Izanami can be a relatively aggressive duo lane, but if we're going to see some pressure being built up one more time in that Oni Warriors duo, we've got to see some sort of impact from this Osiris then in the early to mid.
Have to, no doubt about it. Can't be letting your first pick not impact the map a whole lot, especially when it's the jungler. So certainly looking for that to turn around here if you're the Warriors. No mid lane pick. It's pretty rare for Shinto to not take his pick top 3, especially when 3 mages have already been banned. But instead the Leviathans elect for the Erlong Shen. Surprised by no mage pick here, Bobby?
Yeah, is this just an ego thing? Like, my god pool is deeper than yours, like Tadardez?
I guess so.
Now you got Disco banned now also. Merlin is probably the next pick up. Morgan's the next pick up also. There's the Merlin ban. You're kind of running to those, you're going to like 7th, 8th best mid laners going to be played in this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of bans. Probably 5 for the Oni Warriors and 2 for the Leviathans, I'd assume. Both Morgan Le Fay and the Morrigan here open and available. And for JMac and Mifflin's sake, I hope those aren't the 2 mid lane picks. So maybe some bans that way as it's Zhang Kui banned away. Not one of those top mages that I expected to see banned there inbound.
I think it's just a kind of a Dardes pick. It's just something that he can just kind of lock in and just kind of run it down with. It gives you a lot of just area damage. It makes team fights easier to play when you have something that's just kind of doing damage to everyone around him if people are playing up. So I think it is actually a pretty good ban.
And both those mages that we talked about, Morgan Le Fay and the Morrigan, are open. So we'll see. That's the direction they want to go. But it's an AMC hover right now from the Leviathans. Taco, something's telling me that is not going to get locked.
I wouldn't actually throw it past the Leviathans here to lock in the Amus and Cobb just because it could be for, fun, but on that same note, I think the Leviathans, they really want to seal this one out. 3-0 victory if possible, and Heim just makes a little bit more sense in terms of his survivability aspect with the Bifrost. He has a lot of anti-initiation features too in case this Osiris is trying to pay some visitation hours towards that dual lane in Game 3. Going to be a lot more difficult to do through the pressure of that Heimdall ultimate, but I'm looking more so at this Erlong Shen. I was curious if the Leviathans were going to go to the Gilgamesh, given that it's been left open this entire time, but I think the priority just turned more towards that 9 turns blessing because you have that Tauntaun feature for the Khepri. It's very easy, I think, to CC lock him, as well as the knockout from the turtle transformation. Could be incredibly problematic as well for the Izanami just from that pin. Easy to reveal exactly where she's going to be at from that Invis escape.
Yeah, very easy. And the Heim on the other side has got to be scary, not just for the Invis, but I feel like playing Khepri up against Heim has got to be one of the worst matchups for the Khepri player because people are dying when they're going through the realms. You're getting sent through the realms while someone else is dying. Pretty hard to abduct him. Excuse me? Huh?
Anti-heal nation.
I guess. Yeah, it is anti-heal. But do you think Rongyu cares when he's locked in a River's Rebuke if he's getting anti-healed? I personally... Look, Bobby, you tell me. You're playing Yamoja. You see them lock an Opwash. Are you for 1 second thinking, oh no, my healing?
I'm going to say, if there's an Opwash pick that makes sense, like, you got just about everything that matches up well, other than maybe the Yamoja wall that makes it hard to play into, but everyone's going to be kind of diving onto you. The fight's going to be fighting on you. You're going to have this giant field covering where Yamoja ult's going to be covering. And he's got Khepri to save him, too.
That's true.
Opwash might not be the best pick in the game, but he is not a terrible pick right now.
I think the Khepri, okay, the Khepri helps. I was pretty not sold because while you were saying that, I'm just thinking, yeah, and then he gets Erlong pinned, and what happens? You know, then he just dies, which is still probably true, but he's got Khepri there.
We talk about these games.
That's the Scarecrow one.
Yes,
that's
that
like,
is literally a Scarecrow.
That's
yes.
one of his best skins.
Okay. So you got to build some intrigue when you're casting a game, and I think that this Opwash does have potential to succeed, and Bobby kind of hinted at it a little bit. He is going to be the sole target of dive throughout the entirety of this game. Dardes is going to be under pressure, under duress, there's your caster bingo, the entire time. And he's got a great tool to keep him alive inside of the Scarab's Blessing from Neil Ma. So if there is one guy you're going to be shutting down the entire time, and that's Opwash, that means that Vote is going to have infinite space. This guy's going to be going ghost the entire time. Nobody's looking at Vote, which means that Vote should be able to pop off. If there's only one guy getting dove, it simplifies Neil Ma's game. It means that Scarab's Blessing really only generally needs to go one way. It simplifies Nika's game. Who am I peeling for? Probably the guy who's got 5 people on him. That's Dardes. Burst damage, and it's a stun. And nobody is going to be able to avoid it because Rongyu can't be choosy.
But this is the downside of the Opwash early, is one quick gank is all that spells doom for him. Panatom and Shinto team up and take down Dardes for an early first blood. Okay, well, we'll see how well your script writing goes for this one. Maybe Leviathan. Okay, so if you're writing the script then, do Leviathans go the 3-0, or is this the comeback for the Warriors?
You know, you have to watch and find out.
Dardes, he's going to be watching a lot of damage go his way. He's able to make it out for the time being, but Shinto transforms in and leaps under that Tier 1 tower, able to pick up a second kill for the Leviathans, the first one for him. And Dardes struggling, hasn't even hit that level 5 mark just yet.
So I was wrong. It's a Jing Shen transformation early on that allows him to dive a little bit
How
further.
long
Is wrong.
it takes him to be able to actually get the stacks available for it is he's going to be sharing a little bit here with Cuvo Fred. We'll get some early stacks, and Panatom will make some early aggression this way. Cuvo Fred has to leap over the wall, not expecting the level of damage coming out from Shinto and Panatom.
Yeah, had about 45 more HP than he needed in that one. Lives with 46. Cuvo Fred, I think, just not expecting that level of damage early on, but that's what Ikavale affords you. Panatom has hit a massive power spike. Shinto as well with a Doom Orb finish has a ton of power available to him, so the Dark Omen is doing a ton of damage, and Cuvo Fred, the Death said it earlier, has to have a good performance here. You first picked the Osiris. Your jungler had to have gone towards it in that first slot, so you got to expect great things from it. And as of right now, without that ultimate available, might be a little bit until we see him live up to that greatness.
Neil spotted on the jungle, pin from Panatom, holds him, stun afterwards. Neil Maul falling low, down to half health, a taunt back in with the 9 turns blessing. Neil Maul gets ripped back by the Riptide, gets a revive all for himself, but immediately falls to the clutches of Zapman, who's rotated over. Cuvo and Dardes are here. Big Dark Portal from Vote, hits 4, but not going to get any further follow-up.
We got to see what Dardes was looking to do inside of these fights. He empties the crypts, and the Leviathans leave, but not without first taking out Neil already. At about 2,000 at the 7-minute mark, the Leviathans are up to a quick pace. This is almost reminiscent of Game 1.
Dardes caught, and he has nowhere to go. The waves attract both of his options off immediately. Does manage to get under the Tier 1 tower thanks to rotation from Cuvo Fred, but now it may be Cuvo who's in danger. Yarkor is rotated over from solo lane, gets the ultimate out of the jungler.
Just kind of played disrespectfully so far inside of this one. He is going for stuns on tower line. He's acting as a solo agent 9 minutes into this game. There's not much that Shinto can't do. Does not connect the stun onto Cuvo Fred. Would have changed that fight, but maybe not needed.
Cuvo Fred gets caught by the stun and shot down immediately. Empty. The Crypts comes out of Dardes, but to no avail. His jungler is already gone. They might be able to pick up Panatom here as Nika's rotated over, and Dardes gets credit for the kill off the damage from Fleeting Breath.
Panatom caught slipping in mid. Nice engagement. Blink in into the washing machine from Nika. Puts him inside of the tower and finishes off the kill. Purple buff invade attempt here from Zap.
Vote going to use the Dark Portal, but the Bifrost is there from Zapman to get out, so Vote will secure his purple buff, and Rongyu and Dardes having a little skirmish here by the mid lane. Dardes gets trembled away by the waves, gets stunned out, and a revive comes out from Neil to try and help him out, but the Riptide out of Rongyu pulls Dardes right back into the fray, and Shinto chops him down.
That's gotta feel so bad for Neil. Does get the miraculous ultimate to save his life, and then immediately gets to watch as Dardes dies yet again. Now then.
Unfortunate part for him is Shinto's been a bit of a bully and has been getting to free farm 2-0-3, level 14 on this Morgan.
Keep your eyes on the map. Yarkor has made the rotation, which should spell the beginning of this Gold Fury attempt. Neilma and Cuvo, first one's in.
Hardcore in to bully Neilma, hold him away. Gold Fury dropped, and Nika looking for the ultimate, only finds Rongyu, throws him to the back line of the team, but the Riptide makes sure that Rongyu has a quick escape route back up. Shinto in the stealth, not going to find anybody. Neil gets stunned by Hardcore, and well, Hardcore is doing a lot of damage back to Neil.
He really is, and has created so much space, effectively zoning 4, but the Gold Fury is burning very slow. Cuvo Fred has vision.
Back up for it. Nika doesn't have Volt, and Cuvo Fred has his, has to use it to get away. The stun comes out, only finds Neil now caught inside the River's Rebuke. Hardcore is going to zone them away as Neil is falling low, has to use the Scare's Blessing on himself.
Blinks out.
Manages to make it out, gets the taunt as well from his ultimate just to get some extra healing, and Shinto finds Dardes. Now it's Vote versus Shinto. And Shinto gets the D-Transform, Hardcore finds Nika, and it's a 3-0 trade.
Panatom lives with like 10 HP as Nika tries to chase him throughout that engagement, and because Nika is spending so much time chasing the jungler, he's not helping his team. He's not peeling for Dardes, he's not peeling for Neilma, he's not creating space for Vote, which means that the Leviathans are able to win that engagement. Flashback to game 1, I'm going to say it verbatim. The Oni Warriors have long shot odds to come back from this one, but they do have good tools to deal with what the Leviathans are working with. But that said, I was saying the Leviathans may have been playing slow. That's not true anymore. 16 and a half minutes in, Fire Giant pulled.
No response from the Warriors. Nika's here, will be able to get a blink to get past them, and now has to find his way in the pit in order to try and slow them down. Goes for the ultimate, will find just one. It's only Panatom pulled back. Nika pulled across the Ring of Fire, maybe one, too many times, and a revive from Neil will make sure to get him out.
Nika uses the leap to go ahead and work his way out. Now the Leviathans need to fall back ever so slightly, utilize the healing from this Yamoja, and maybe go for the Pyromancer. They can keep up their threat here because where's Vote? He's pushing Duo.
No skin off their back, so they don't lose any of their purification beads. They don't lose any relics for it, just a couple of ultimates, and instead of Fire Giant, they do take a Pyromancer in response for it. So no lives lost, nothing too much, nothing ventured, nothing gained for it.
That's one way in, maybe a Fire Giant steal to buy themselves effectively another 10 or so minutes inside of this match. Could be another way in as well, but yet again, Leviathans pull fire, and where's Vote? He's in left.
Neil gets caught out by Hardcore, and Shinto takes about 40% of his health bar, and Hardcore is looking to extend that damage just a little bit further. Dardes gets some return fire against Hardcore, and Nika tries to stop this Fire Giant, but he is unsuccessful in doing so and may end up losing out on his life. The Scare's Blessing gives him a little bit of extra movement speed to get out, but the Fire Giant all the while taken by the Leviathans.
Nice pin attempt, does not connect onto Nika, and Yarkor is able to force the Lord of the Afterlife from Cuvo Fred. 5 members with Fire Giant healing coming from Rongyu, and again, where is Vote? He's on the left-hand side.
Trying to get some split push action for him, but Cuvo Fred is caught out with no ultimate, no beads available. He gets taken down by Shinto. 5 members of Leviathans now pushing up the mid lane, and all the while Vote finally makes his way back, but he didn't even take that tier 2 tower. He had to come back almost instantly.
Yeah, it's all because Cuvo Fred finds himself picked out there. Nice stun.
Double stun out of Hardcore. Phoenix is not even the option for them just yet. They're looking at Neil and Dardes. River's Rebuke finds 3 in the midst of it. Panatom looking for Neil Maw, gets plucked back. Hardcore taking quite a bit of damage from the Empty the Crypts, but the mid lane Phoenix is the primary target. They manage to take it down, and Panatom just squeaks by.
How does Panatom walk away from that one? Uses his mobility ability into 4 members aggressively, and then turns on his heel and walks away. The Leviathans didn't even peel him out. Nika, now trying to find something for his team, is able to force the beads off Zapman, but that's probably all he's able to do besides stop some backs.
And Riptide from Rongyu will make sure that they have more than enough mobility to try and escape, but Nika is still looking for some more chase. Zapman turns around with the Gallarhorn to try and knock him back in case he walked a little too far forward. But Nico,
these objectives as well, maybe not shred the enemy gods nearly as much as he doesn't have full tank shred abilities. Instead, it's going to be a little bit of a grit towards the middle of his build. And what are the Warriors doing? Taking a fight this far up, maybe hoping they'd find a pick, but instead they find 4 members of the Leviathans.
Leviathans have just let Panatom do whatever he wants on this right side. He takes Pyro, he takes the Greater Scorpion away from the Warriors, and now a tier 2 tower, and it could be even more because everybody else is distracted by the Leviathans, and they are finally going to be able to send somebody to try and slow down Panatom. They had to send 2 members to that right-hand side, and that will be enough to deter Panatom from continuing forward. But now there's 4 members of the Leviathans knocking at the left Phoenix's door.
And Nika has forced his rotation all the way to the right-hand side. Panatom is just a thorn in the Oni Warriors' side, and this Phoenix, it's not burning fast, but it is burning down to 50% HP. The Leviathans are taking a leisurely pace towards this siege, and they've only got 30 seconds left on that Fire Giant.
Panatom teetering back and forth between. He'll join Shinto towards the mid lane and make a pincer maneuver. Gets a double taunt onto just Cuvo and Nika and puts him well under half health. Shinto goes to the transform, gets the pin, and gets the beads away from Nika, but the rest of the team under danger under the mid lane. Phoenix Neil has to ult just himself and gets away from the stun. And a dark portal puts so much damage back against Wrong Yu. Nika turns around and picks up the first kill of the fight, taking down Wrong Yu.
And now Nika might be able to isolate Panatom, Dardes, Cuvo, both in range. Cuvo ults in aggressive.
Looks for somebody, but doesn't get anyone with the ultimate. Instead, now he's being zoned away by Hardcore, stunned out and bursted by Shinto. He'll pop him. Neil now has no ultimate and no safety left as he has to use his own route just to try and zone everybody else away. Nika low. Zapman almost gets taken out, has to use the Aegis because he thought the corpse explosion was coming back. But Nika able to find a second one to keep it at even 2 for 2.
That dot damage from the Ferocious Roar is what is credited for the kill, but meanwhile, the Titan has taken a good deal of damage. Want any indicator about how much Cuvo Fred's been struggling inside of this one? Take a peek at the damage charts on the left-hand side. Third from the bottom, just 1,000 more damage than Wrong Yu, the support for the Leviathans. This Osiris has been struggling mightily to close gap into the back line. That's why Shinto has been allowed to free cast this entire time. We need to see more from Cuvo Fred if you are an Oni Warriors fan. A huge ultimate, something along those lines, but so far, it's not been great.
No answer at the Fire Giant means the Leviathans get it for free and now can push towards this right side. There's a weakened Phoenix in the mid lane after it respawns. They sent a couple members over there via Panatom and Shinto to try and stop that one. They set their sights towards Cuvo. The right side, Phoenix is the one in danger, already down to half health. Nika goes to the back looking for Zap, but gets his beads instead with the ultimate. Zap using his own ultimate, but misses everybody and has to use the Bifrost just to barely get out of there.
Luckily for Zap, he is able to get out of there. That is a unfortunate mispunish for the Oni Warriors that should have forfeited Zapman's life, but no beads, no Aegis, low HP, should be healing up with the Fire Giant as well as Wrong Yu. There's a little bit of time bought by the Warriors.
River's Rebuke from Wrong Yu holds one in place. It's just Neil though, and Wrong Yu and Zapman are both low. And Empty the Crypts comes out from Dardas to push them away, but all the while Leviathans take away the middle Phoenix, almost finding Cuvo in the process of it.
And this right side Phoenix's days are numbered. It is very low, and just Neilma trying to create some space.
The all 3 Phoenixes down, and now it's just the 5v5 for
nice
them.
Stun.
Dardas gets stunned out by Shinto, taunted back in off the transformation, and immediately walks away. Zapman picks up Neil. Panatom grabs Cuvo, and it's now 3 versus 5 at the throne.
Unbridled aggression here from the Leviathans. They are knocking on the door of the Titan.
Dardes tries to get Shinto, but a quick Aegis will make sure he doesn't fall down to the corpse explosion. Instead, the Leviathans are backing up to sustain. Shinto very low in health, but the Titan is completely exposed.
Panatom finds Vote in the back line, but that's not enough.
The Titan is now under fire again. The Leviathans backing out and walking right back in. Under half health and no further response from the Warriors. Titan falling low, and Arcor picks up one in the process of it, but everybody is still falling low, and the Titan will go down. Leviathans with a clean 3-0 to end our first set.
And Erlang, which is very hard to do, especially because he lost his beads also on that first gank. So he had no beads for the next 4 or 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely tough for him to play that one.
Yeah,
I mean,
didn't even land the pin there.
Yeah, didn't even land the pin there is what I was about to say, Taco. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. Dardes got saved a couple times. Neil was in the right spots occasionally, and then it just didn't matter because Wrong Yu was having sick riptides and things along that.
It is kind of a painful experience at times to be a mid laner in Dardas' position Whether or not the theory craft was ultimately just to look for the anti-heal, I think that this may have just been a little bit more of that internal struggle of player frustration from the first 2 games kind of just wrapped up into this 3rd game.
I mean, look, you're down 2-0. You got to, take a risk, go with something a little bit spicy. Definitely have some respect for that. Unfortunately for the Warriors, it did not end up working out. Shinto, turns out that triple banning him and then banning him again in the second phase, it still doesn't really matter very much. My man's went 6-0-10 in this matchup. Yarkor as well, 2-0-10. I mean, the Leviathans came in and did what we expected. If this team is going to be a contender to win Phase 2 playoffs, I think they had to come out and look pretty similar to this today, and they certainly took care of business. Titans and the Jade Dragons. And the winner of that goes on to fight off against the Camelot Kings, which should be an absolutely incredible matchup to see whoever comes out of this last quarterfinal. And then, of course, the finals on Sunday, 1 p.m., a best of 5 to determine who is going to be the #1 team in Phase number 2. Bobby, looking at that matchup tomorrow, Bolts versus Leviathans. You got some early thoughts for us on it?
I think that, like, out of all the teams this year, it's almost like a rivalry starting to come out from these 2 teams. Like, not really bad blood rivalry, but it's like, we want to beat you so bad because they kind of, like, trade games back and forth.